Well, I'm excited to be hanging with Ben Reed today. Ben is a small group pastor at Saddleback Church in Lake Forest, California, and he also serves on the leadership team of the Small Group Network. Ben is also the author of Starting Small, the Ultimate Small Group Blueprint. Ben, thanks for hanging with me today.
Derek, thanks. This is going to be fun.
Man, I'm excited to learn from you, and I know many in the Small Group Network worldwide are excited to learn and hear from you as well. So I'm basically going to ask you a bunch of questions and let you go for it. And many of these questions came from our small group members via our Facebook group. So if you're not in our Facebook group audience, jump on that. It's an amazing way to connect and glean a lot of awesome information. So Ben, here's our first question, and this comes from the Facebook group. What's the best coffee to serve at a small group gathering?
Oh, the best coffee. I am a massive coffee fan. I think the small group that drinks coffee together stays together. But I would say maybe to take it a step further, the good coffee together stays together. I'm a personal fan of a Chemex, so I like to brew it in a Chemex. I think one thing I would say is not a Keurig. So don't just go the convenient route. Go the extra mile. Bring out the best of the best coffee for your small group because you love your small group. You don't despise them. You're not going to give them cheap coffee. You're going to give them the good stuff. But I'm also a big fan of iced coffee. So actually, last night our small group met, and I made both. Made a pot of Chemex and a pot of iced coffee. So to me, if that's not love, I don't know what is.
I love it. To all of you who drink the Keurig, we are sorry for that. Hey, so you're a fellow coffee snob. You drink it black?
No, Derek, don't say we're sorry for that. Don't give it an out, okay? No, we're not sorry, all right?
I love it. No, I used to drink that, and I have totally become a snob in my own right and love the Chemex, and that's amazing to hear. Hey, somebody else asked, they're interested, what drew you into small group ministry originally, Ben?
Wow, that was a hard right turn. We were goofing around about coffee. Now you're going to get super serious. For me, I'll share a little bit of my story. I kind of stumbled into small group ministry. So I got a call from a church in my hometown. I was in seminary at the time. I was getting close to finishing. I was on part-time staff at a church as a student pastor. And the pastor at the church was a friend of mine. And he said, hey, would you be interested in joining our staff as a small group pastor? And my response was, well, maybe, but what's a small group pastor? So we had a little bit of a dialogue, and then I started kind of digging in and trying to figure out what it is I'd be doing, what it is that makes a successful small group pastor. And then I started looking at my own story too, because I realized I knew that like I wasn't going to be I didn't have the aspirations to be like the lead guy or church planter, something like that. But I love people, I love ministry, I love the church. And so I was actually aiming towards counseling, and I finished my MDiv in biblical counseling, and I'm thankful that I did that. It was great knowledge that I could gain. But we were looking to get back to my hometown, and so I accepted the job, and we're excited about jumping on staff at this church plant. And it was one of those kind of ministries, and I don't know if you've ever had this kind of experience where you step into something and almost instantly you realize you were created for it. Within the first 6 months, I fell in love with this ministry that I didn't really know a whole lot about beforehand. And really, I think it birthed in me a decade before that. Because when I look back across my journey, my spiritual journey, it wasn't in the thousands of sermons that I'd heard. It wasn't in the great worship music I'd listened to and the experiences that I'd had in that. It wasn't the mission trips I'd been a part of that God had radically changed my life. It was through the experience of small group, and it was through other guys that were they were punching me in the teeth when that's what I needed, and they were hugging me when that's what I needed, and encouraging me and correcting me. All the types of stuff that we talk about makes a healthy small group. At the time, I didn't know that I was in a small group. We were just getting together with a group of guys and studying the Bible and talking about life. And I realized a decade later that God was using that unbeknownst to me, to shape me for what he would want me to do vocationally for the rest of my life. So that's how I jumped into small groups. It's one of those where I stumbled in and instantly loved it.
It's really cool to hear your story and hear the backside of all that, how you started out part-time, like a lot of people, and it was through community that got you a decade later into a lot of that. Man, that's amazing. Well, I know that the fall is right upon us, and so on so many of our minds is preparing for fall, and for those that do the host model and terms, getting ready for the fall terms and launches. So my next question is, what are the top things you are doing now to prepare for small group ministry this fall?
That's a great question. One, I would kind of push back on that and say, if you're just now thinking about what you're going to do for the fall has already passed you. So if right now, this moment, you're going, oh yeah, we should do something this fall, start thinking, what should we do in January? So don't try to just kind of throw something together and at the last minute and try to pull something off. But hopefully you've kind of been giving it some thought, or maybe as I start talking about fall, you really can kind of substitute January, February in your mind. And actually, I would say either one could be a great season for your groups. One of the things that we've done recently is we've been really training a lot of our group leaders. We want to make sure that our group leaders, we call them hosts, we want to make sure that they know the right thing to do, that they're fully trained up so that they can lead their group well. Fall and January are also great times to start new groups. The fall is a great time because even when we're out of school, we still kind of operate in this semester mindset where August means a fresh start. August means, when we were a kid, we graduate and go to the next grade. So we're kind of excited about, hey, what's next? What's this next season of my life going to look like? What's the next year of my life going to look like? Because things are changing. It's a great time to capitalize on that natural kind of rhythm of our culture, to say, hey, you're thinking natural restart. Well, let us help you start with a new small group. Same thing happens in January, but in January, it's not so much the school calendar, although our schools do start over again in January too, after a break. It's the natural kind of life calendar as people are making goals and they're saying, okay, I want to lose weight or I want to travel more. A lot of people are also saying, here's some ways that I want to grow spiritually. We as church leaders have a chance to step in and say, this is a great time to grow spiritually by being a part of a small group. And the vernacular that we use at Saddleback isn't so much, hey, you need to join a small group. We say you need to host your own small group. So we try to equip people to gather the friends that they already have in their life and just begin investing in them in a different way. So I would say train your leaders, and then start new groups and equip the groups that you have. So now is a great time to introduce some new curriculum, give groups some new options to, if you're not going to start a lot of new groups, at least kind of inject some life into the groups that you have. It'd be a great time to do that.
Great feedback. Thank you for that wealth of wisdom right there. Somebody asks on the Facebook group, what are the best ways, or what are some of the best ways you've seen that you guys implement to promote small groups from the pulpit?
Yeah, so this is a part of the leading up question, because a lot of us that are listening right now, we're not preaching and teaching from the main stage every week, and so somebody else is going to do that. So we're trying to empower somebody else to be the microphone, to be the voice for us. And so one of the things, and I've learned this from Steve Gladen, that he does so well, is he's learned. Our lead pastor, Pastor Rick, he's learned Rick's love language, if you will. He knows how Rick likes to receive things so that he can process that and then share that when he can. So Rick loves stories and data. You're smart. Your pastor may like different things, but for us, we're constantly trying to compile the right kind of data. And then we're collectors of stories. And so we always want to take both of those things, put those together and say, here's data, here's what we see going on, here's some stories of what God's doing, and then lead that up to Rick. And then we just become that reminding voice of here's what's going on this season with groups. Here's what's going on this semester with groups. Or here's what's going on this week with small groups. But look for ways, if you have maybe a little bit more say in what would happen on the weekend, look for ways to creatively share about the value of small groups. So yes, lead up to your pastor, whoever's communicating from stage, but look to make your announcements a little more engaging and fun, and not just, well, small groups start this date, so go to this place. Yes, be clear with your announcements, but have fun with them too. I remember one of the churches where I was on staff at, we actually brought a small group on stage, and we had a little discussion about what they loved about small group and what they got frustrated with in small group. And so we just tried to kind of normalize a group experience so that people would feel a little more comfortable stepping in to being a part of a small group, because so many people are scared of what the experience would look like. They're unsure of what a small group really is because they hear us talk about it. And we talk about the value of it, but they've never seen it themselves. So we tried to kind of demystify that by bringing a group on stage, and we got great feedback on that, because people could see what a group live in person would look like. And they saw that it was a bunch of normal people that were pursuing Jesus together, that were asking life questions and loving on each other through the process. So we really tried to demystify this concept that some people may have about what a small group is. Also, I'd say there's a lot of videos. If you have the space to kind of drop in a little video announcement, there's sometimes like off-the-shelf videos you can buy, but I think some of the best things that you can do would be to just get a video camera, whether it's like some professionally done, or sometimes you can just, with your phone, our phones can take video in full HD. Grab a story or two, grab a 30-second story, and go on stage. And when you're making your announcement, let somebody else be the champion for groups rather than just you. Our churches expect us to be huge raving fans of groups. At some level, we're called to this. We get paid to do this. This is our job. We have to be excited about them. Now, you and I both know this is more than just a job. This is a deep-seated calling in our lives. But the general church member, they can look at us and just go, well, you have to say that small groups are important. But somebody else giving the testimony of how much they love their group and how it changed their life, you've got a raving fan there that can help really energize a whole church to be a part of a small group when they see it's not just their pastoral staff that's talking about it. It's church members that are raving fans of small groups. So when you can incorporate stories like that, those are gold when you can share those from stage.
Great. I'm echoing further. Great feedback. I love what you said about bringing the live group on stage. That is brilliant. If I can ask, how long were they up there?
So it was like a 30-minute kind of sermon. So we had like a 35-minute sermon time. And I took the first 5 to 10, about probably 10 minutes to kind of set things up, did a little small sermon, and we brought them on stage for the next 15 to 20 minutes. And we had scripted it all. It felt very organic and natural, but we had walked through every question. I knew for this question, these two people are going to answer. For this question, these two people are going to answer. That's not the best way to lead a small group. You don't want everything scripted out like that in a small group. But when you bring people on stage to share those things, it can get dangerous. And dangerous in the sense of you could have somebody that gets really excited and talks for a half hour and dominates the discussion. And you don't want that to happen on stage. So we scripted everything out. They knew every question in advance. I didn't throw them any curveballs. And it took us about 20 minutes to walk through that. And it didn't feel rushed, but it also didn't feel like it took too long either, because 20 minutes, if we had 8 people on stage, that by the time everybody talks for a minute or two, your time is just about up. So yeah.
Great feedback. I love that idea, and I'm gonna put that on my list to use in the near future here.
But I know who I stole it from, but I stole it from somebody else. So you can steal it and call it your own idea.
And my pastor will love me for it. No,
yes.
Great stuff. Hey, when it comes to, and could be a really broad question, I know, but what advice, what tidbits would you give when it comes to recruiting new leaders, new hosts? Obviously, that's a question on all small group point people's minds, but what would you share with us there?
Yeah, I think it's a question that so many of us ask all the time, because we've got to be we're in the business of recruiting volunteers. For us at Saddleback, we are not focused on recruiting small group leaders, though. We, as a small groups team, are focused on recruiting. We call them community leaders. Some of you call them coaches. Some of you call them shepherds. Just that second tier of leadership that helps you shepherd small groups. That's what our small group team is focused on. We're recruiting them. We're actually not recruiting small group hosts or small group leaders. So the way that we get leaders is we do that through our campaign. We do a campaign once a year. If you'd like to know more about how we do that, pick up Steve Layden's book, Small Groups with Purpose, and it lays out the whole timeline of how we do, what we do, and why we do it. It's phenomenal. And I love that once a year, we have Pastor Rick on stage that's saying, look, your life is not going to be the same unless you join a small group. And it's not so much join. I already made this distinction earlier. It's not join. It's, look, you have a couple of friends. You have a couple of friends that you could pull into your life. You don't have to know all the answers. You don't have to, you just need to be willing to step up, pick up this curriculum, and invite them into your home, or just invite them to meet with you before work, or invite them to meet you at Starbucks once a week. Just invite them into your life to be intentional at growing spiritually. So we're not focused on recruiting leaders to be small group leaders. That frees our team up to say, okay, we're going to have a ton of leaders. How do we shepherd them? How do we help them grow? So we've got 2 guardrails that we have in place that help our small group hosts grow and develop. And one of those is our infrastructure guardrail that really we're focusing on the relational side of ministry. So if you think about a guardrail, it actually keeps you on the road. It may hurt if you bump up against it. It's probably going to mess your car up, but it's better to hit a guardrail on an interstate than to, fall off the side of a cliff. So we want to make sure that relationally we're walking beside our small group hosts. It's going to hurt sometimes. We have to have difficult conversations, but it's all focused on helping them develop into a healthier leader themselves, so that they can lead a healthier small group. So that's the kind of people that we're looking to recruit, is small group community leaders. Now, the way that we do that, I would say we are always looking for them. And I know that sounds very basic, but we're constantly looking for leaders, constantly looking for CLs. And we're not, because we don't want just anybody with a pulse. We want the cream of the crop leaders. So we have to have our eyes open at all times, looking for people that we can pull into our team. The way that we've been framing it up is, hey, what skills are you missing on your team? What heart are you missing on your team? What are you, as the point person, what are you not able to do because of capacity, because of gifting, because of passion? Maybe let's take the example of like administrative details. There's all kinds of administrative details that go into leading small groups. Maybe that's not your gift. Well, that's okay. You may have to do it for a season, or you could find somebody that you could pull in to help you shepherd groups, and they may take a couple of groups on their own, but then they're going to help you tremendously grow the ministry because they can help you on the administrative side of things. So CLs are so important to us that we want to constantly be looking. And I would say look to fish in the ponds that aren't the fish aren't already gone. So don't just go look in children's ministry and say, who's the best of the best volunteer here, and then steal them. I love the places that, I mean, you look through Jesus' life and the people that he pulled into his ministry to follow him. Those are people that the church had overlooked. Now, he had a robust development process in place, because it was follow the Son of God around for the next few years and learn from me before I turn you loose. But I love that when Jesus was recruiting people, he recruited people that the church overlooked. These are, you look at Levi. Levi was hated by the church. He wouldn't have been called in to be a Sunday school teacher. He would have been called in to be a children's worker. He was pushed to the side, but yet Jesus said, I see potential in you and I want to help you develop and grow. So we try to look where other ministries may have overlooked. We look for natural leadership abilities. And I mean, yeah, we want to look for character. Obviously, that's incredibly important. But don't just look for people that have checked all the boxes already in terms of church leadership. Maybe that they can take a lot of what they've learned in the business world or leading their own company or whatever they do in their day-to-day job. It could be that type of skill could transfer into supporting the ministry that God's called you to lead. So look for people that maybe the traditional ministries have overlooked and pull them into your ministry, and then help them develop as they follow you and as you invest in them.
Man, that's great insight. A wealth of information right there. Thanks so much. Here's a question for you. What are some things to avoid when starting a small group ministry?
Ooh, there's all kinds of things, but one I would say is just this is to be careful of. Be careful that you're not the only person. Let me explain this. So it would be easy as you're starting, you're going to start with 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 groups. Be easy for you to think, well, you can just manage all that, because you can. You have the capacity to do that. But right out of the gate, build your ministry team. Don't be the only person that's dreaming and executing on small groups. Don't be the only person that's doing trainings. Don't be the only person that's calling small groups. Don't be the only person that's caring for small groups, because you become the cap on your ministry really, really quickly. So right out of the gate, build your leadership team. Pull in people with different gifts. Pull in people with different ideas. Pull in people that think differently than you do, and that can help stretch you, because the end goal is you want to produce fully mature followers of Christ. For us, we say we want healthy small group to balance the 5 purposes. We want individuals to balance the 5 purposes. So pull in people that can help shape the ministry, so that it's not just you that's trying to build and grow and shape the ministry over time. So if you're starting out, my encouragement to you would be, don't do it alone, which makes sense. I mean, we're small group people. We know the value of community for others. Sometimes we just choose to, when we're leading our ministries, to do it ourselves. And that's really unfortunate, because we know the power of community. We know the power of different voices in the conversation. So from the very beginning, right out of the gate, pull other people in. Don't do it yourself. Some of those may be staff members. Some of those may be, some of your coaches, your CLs. But don't limit your ministry by thinking you're the only one that can have a good idea about small groups. You will vastly limit it if you do that.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Build a team. Get people around you. People that will stretch you. And I love how you made the point that can be staff people, but it can also be volunteers. It can be your coaches. It can be great small group hosts and leaders. That was really great. Another question for you, Ben. Have you found any new approaches that inspire people to embrace authentic connection?
Yeah, I think it's nothing new, but I think what inspires connection is going to be story. So people are, they're motivated when they see life change happen, because they want life change. I love when Rick teaches, and we're not telling him, hey, you need to talk about your small group this week, but he talks about it almost every week. And it's not just this like ethereal head knowledge, like, let me tell you why small groups are important. It's, let me tell you how my small group made a difference in my life this week. So it's translated from his head to his heart. So when you share from your heart, people are more motivated to buy into that, rather than saying intellectually, I know that I need to join a small group. Now we're tapping into people's emotions. The other thing I would say, the ways that we want to try to draw people into authentic community, people are drawn a lot of times by content. So part of that is going to be, yes, share your heart, share the stories. Those are great. But those aren't always motivating. We want to make sure that we're putting content out there that people would say, well, I've got to have that. So the hook for a lot of people is going to be an intellectual, like, okay, I need to know the 5 things that God's going to use to change my life. Maybe that's a sermon series you've got coming up this fall. Well, what you can do from stage is to say, we're going to produce content that takes this a step further. Your life's not going to be the same if you don't get this content. So when we do campaigns, we rely heavily on felt need content. So we try to put ourselves in the minds of a church member to say, okay, they're coming on the weekend. What would motivate them to go to a table and pick this up? How can we write this in a way? How can we phrase this in a way? How can we cast the vision for this in such a way that they would say, my life is not complete unless I pick this material up. Now, ultimately, it's not just about the material. Ultimately, it's about helping get them connected into community. But we use content as the hook that draws them in, or as the bait that they would bite on. We use that content. And so produce stellar content. If you're not going to produce stellar content, buy stellar content that you can put in the hands of your small groups, so that that's a motivating factor for them to say, I've got to have this material in my life. If it's parenting, if it's spiritual growth, if it's spiritual disciplines, whatever that is, find those things that would stir your people up and put that material in their hands, because that's going to encourage them to be a part of a small group, and to not go through life alone, but to pick the small group study up and go through it with somebody else.
Great insight, man. I'm taking a lot of notes, and this is fun.
Are you? Because I don't see you writing anything down, Derek. I'm going to call you. I'm going to call your bluff. Hey, okay. Show me. Where's your pen? Oh, I called his bluff, and
Come on.
You're honest. Okay, all right.
Come on, man. Hey, well,
I didn't trust anybody from Alaska before, but I guess I trust you now.
Mental notes. That's included, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, man, we're out of time, but this has been very insightful and encouraging and challenging, I know, for me and for so many people out there in our small group network and worldwide. Thanks for your time, man. If you guys are watching this amazing interview, you got to follow Ben on Twitter at twitter.com/BenReed, BenReed. Also, check out his blog. And you can find out about his awesome book. It's called smallgroupblueprint.com, smallgroupblueprint.com. All that information is on the screen. Ben, thanks for your time, man.
Thanks, Derek. This was fun. Yeah, I would love to interact with you guys on social media. If you want to pop me an email, benr@saddleback.com. Would love to interact with you there too. If I can help your ministry, I'd love to.
Thanks, Ben.
See you guys.
Bye.
Thanks, Derek.